What would you say if I told you that the human body contains invisible switches for other states of consciousness? What if one of those switches was located right behind your ear, waiting to be activated by the gentle touch of 2 fingers? Not everyone knows that. It's a practice that has remained hidden, passed down in secret by small groups and used by healers, monks, and sages who understood something that modern science is only beginning to explore. The body is not just biology. It is an energetic map that responds to sacred touch. Today, I'll show you one of these keys. Stimulating the mastoid region, that sensitive spot behind the ear that used to be stroked like the ear of a sleeping child. This gesture, although subtle, activates a neurosensory circuit that has a profound restorative effect. The deep rest circle, the portal that opens the way to inner stillness, to that place where the soul rests and the body regenerates. Perhaps you've felt this before without realizing it. When you're in the arms of a loved one, or when someone gently touches you behind the ear almost by accident, you suddenly feel an inexplicable sense of peace. It wasn't just affection. It was an old memory, a reaction stored in your nervous system. For this point is a key that unlocks not just sleep, but the sacred rest of the soul. In this video, we delve deeper into this forgotten practice. We discover its spiritual roots, its connection to the parasympathetic nervous system, and its significance in the art of energy healing. We'll also see how this gesture, when performed intentionally, can become a ritual of self-discovery, an act of physical compassion that heals not only the body but also the invisible core of the being. You'll see how ancient cultures already understood the relationship between touch and consciousness, between skin and mind, and how this seemingly simple region was considered by some to be the place where the gods whispered. Because it's not just about playing, but about how you play and, above all, where you play. The body responds to the soul, and when the soul plays devotedly, even a small gesture can become an act of enlightenment. So if you've ever felt like you can't find peace, that the world doesn't come to rest even with your eyes closed, perhaps it's time to learn what the sages already knew. Behind the ear lies a threshold, and touching it respectfully is like opening the door to an inner temple, where true peace is not forced but summoned. Prepare yourself. This knowledge is not just information. It is a tool. If you use it consciously, you'll realize that the stillness you seek has always been within your reach. Since the dawn of humanity, people have understood that the body is much more than a biological machine. Ancient cultures saw it not as a machine, but as a living temple in which every part was sacred, connected to energies, emotions, and invisible forces that we are beginning to understand today. Among these mysterious body parts is the region behind the ear, the so-called mastoid region, which has been considered by many sages to be a place of soul regulation. In Eastern traditions such as Taoism and certain branches of Tantric Buddhism, it has been called the sleeping pedal, a metaphor for a point of stillness and tenderness that can induce altered states of consciousness through compassionate touch. This point was considered a hinge between the sensory and spiritual worlds, between the noise of the mind and the silence of being. In India, yogis recognized the importance of this region in the practice of pratyahara, the withdrawal of the senses. Some ancient texts state that slowly stroking this area before meditation or deep sleep helped to detach the consciousness from the gates of the world. In other words, it facilitated the transition between waking life and the subtle worlds, preparing the body for rest and the mind for unfolding. Even in shamanic cultures of South America, some healers applied gentle pressure behind the ear to release the echoes of the day, the thoughts, and tensions that prevent deep rest. The touch was done with 2 fingers together, as if a flower were gently touching the skin, allowing the soul to return home. Philosophically speaking, this point represents much more than just the gateway to sleep. It is a symbol of the sacred fragility of humankind. In this small region, sensitivity, listening, balance, and openness to the world are found. No wonder it's so close to the ear. For many traditions, this organ is the most spiritual of all the senses, requiring no action, only presence. The ear receives, listens, and welcomes. The mastoid region acts as a sensory bridge between the physical and emotional bodies. It's a gateway, a vortex that, when touched with precision, sends a signal to the nervous system. You can relax, trust, and rest, No wonder some sages called this point the button of divine stillness. For there, between skin and bone, lies a door that opens not with force, but with tenderness. Understanding this reminds us of something the modern world has forgotten. Deep rest comes not only from exhaustion, but from trust. And to truly relax, it's not enough to close your eyes. You must open your soul. Now that we know the ancient and symbolic meaning of the point behind the ear, let's delve into its practical functions without losing its magic. At the intersection of the physical and the subtle, the neurological and the spiritual, we find the vagus nerve, one of the most powerful yet forgotten structures in the human body. The vagus nerve, derived from the Latin word vagus, meaning to wander, is the 10th cranial nerve. Yet it's not just a biological nerve. It's an invisible pathway that connects the brain to almost all internal organs: heart, lungs, liver, stomach, and intestines. And it primarily regulates the parasympathetic nervous system, which is responsible for activating the rest, digest, and heal response. In other words, the vagus nerve is like a giant switch that turns off alarm mode and puts us into a state of physical and mental calm. And therein lies the secret. One of its most accessible branches runs just behind the ear, in the mastoid process near the outer ear. This means that slowly, attentively, and carefully touching this point, as if awakening a sleeping petal, directly stimulates this deep resting circuit. It's not poetic magic, but a biological truth, deeply esoteric in its simplicity. The body not only listens, it also reacts. And this point, so overlooked by conventional medicine, holds the secret of one of our greatest gifts: the ability to silence inner noises. Imagine your nervous system as a garden. During the day, thoughts are like birds stirring the branches. Emotions are like wind stirring the leaves. However, if you respectfully stimulate this point, it's like a warm breeze blowing through the garden, silencing the birds and stilling the leaves. The vagus nerve sends a clear message: we are safe. You can stop fighting. Many modern disorders, anxiety, insomnia, chronic fatigue, irritability, have their roots in a disturbed nervous system. We enter a state of constant alertness, as if there's always something to fear. By consciously touching the mastoid region, we activate the parasympathetic response. It's like extinguishing a fire with a whisper, but simply touching something isn't enough. The difference lies in the intention, the slowness, and the quality of the gesture. Stimulation of this point should be done with 2 fingers, index and middle, slightly apart, as if forming a petal. The touch should be rhythmic, almost maternal, like someone caressing a sleeping child. At this point, you're not just touching your body. You're touching your energy field and reminding the system, we are not alone. We are at peace. This gesture triggers more than just a physiological response. It awakens dormant memories of primal security, connects us to a deep code engraved in our DNA, the code of tenderness, protection, and voluntary devotion. It doesn't require medication or complicated rituals, just presence and skin. And the gateway, one of the most important, lies right there, behind your ear, where true serenity begins. Consciously touching the mastoid region is not just a technical gesture, but a ritual. It connects the physical, the energetic, and the symbolic in a dance of deep reconnection. Unlike targeted pressure, such as in acupressure or certain massages, it's not about force, but about surrendering to the touch. When we use 2 fingers, index and middle, in a petal-like pattern, we stimulate more than just one sensory region. We are recreating an ancient language, a code lost between skin and soul. It's the same gesture a mother instinctively makes to calm her child without words, as if her energy, filtered through her fingertips, could say, everything is all right. And the body actually understands this message, because biology and mind are not separate. The nervous system stores traces of our deepest and most subtle experiences. The body doesn't need to be convinced. It just needs to be touched with the truth. When we practice this before bed, we not only calm our nervous system, but we also create a ritual bridge between the end of the day and the beginning of the dream world. By touching this point in harmony with our breathing and our awareness of the moment, we not only relax, we enter a sacred space, the space between day and night, between the outside and the inside, between the conscious and the invisible. In many mystical traditions, this threshold, the moment before sleep, was considered one of the most fertile moments for inner transformation. It was the perfect time to plant sacred thoughts, leave the noise of the world behind, and surrender to the mystery of tranquility, as if plunging into the cosmic ocean. Gently activating this point was considered to open a channel. Ancient Tibetan and Taoist medical texts refer to this point as the ear of the soul. According to some legends, those who learn to devoutly calm this area can hear the voice of silence. This inner melody comes not from the outside world, but from our deepest core. Some masters said that the wise do not sleep to escape the world, but to hear what is spoken in silence. Furthermore, the ritual activation of this region not only promotes tranquility but also has cumulative effects. If you do this night after night, your body begins to associate this gesture with a sign of voluntary surrender. Your mind relaxes more quickly, your heartbeat slows, and your soul prepares for ascension. You could say this sacred touch acts like a luminous anchor, a physical reminder that we are not alone at night, that there is an invisible network to support us when we let go of control. Touching yourself behind the ear, as if soothing a sleeping child, is a way of telling yourself you can let your guard down. And this gesture, however small it may seem, is revolutionary in a world where constant attention is valued. Thus, a simple caress becomes an act of spiritual power, a signal, a code, an intimate ceremony between you and your living temple. The body doesn't need to be conquered, only remembered. And when that happens, rest is no longer a wish, but a vibrant reality, born of the soul. We live in a culture that glorifies speed, rewards exhaustion, and disguises tiredness as success. Good sleep has become a rare privilege, and deep rest is a distant fantasy for millions. But what we forget, and what ancient traditions knew only too well, is that rest is not the end of the path. It is part of the sacred journey. Rest is not laziness, but physiological wisdom. Rest is not empty. It is the fertile soil in which the invisible seeds of our transformation germinate. Therefore, the art of devotional touching of the mastoid region should not be viewed as just another relaxation trick. It is a spiritual practice of energetic self-care, a tool that, when integrated into your evening routine, can fundamentally transform your waking experience. Here are some tips for consciously incorporating this sacred knowledge into your daily routine. 1. Create a special evening ritual. Before going to bed, turn off bright lights, mute devices, and light a candle next to your bed. Close your eyes, take a deep breath, and place your index and middle fingers behind one ear on the mastoid region. Gently stroke your skin for 1 minute using circular or linear motions, as if you were feeling a breeze. Then repeat this on the other side. This gesture clearly signals to your body that the temple is closing and the soul is withdrawing. 2. Say an intention or a sacred word. Mind and body respond strongly to words. While stroking, mentally repeat phrases like, "I am at peace," "I can let go," or "the universe supports me." This connection between the physical and vibrational levels amplifies the power of the exercise. 3. Take your time. This isn't a massage, it's a language. If it's too fast or too intrusive, it won't work. Consider this moment a dialogue with yourself, like touching the quiet shore of a lake at dusk. 4. Use this touch even in moments of anxiety. Although ideal before bedtime, you can use this touch throughout the day. When you feel fear, tension, or a restless mind, pause, breathe, and touch yourself tenderly. It's a return to yourself, not an escape. 5. Share with your loved ones. This knowledge isn't just for you. If you have children, a partner, or loved ones, give them this caress before bed as a sign of your loving presence. You're touching their nervous system, but also their vibrational field, and telling them without words, "You can surrender to rest. I am with you in the light." Remember, how we sleep reflects our trust. And trust is an art, developed through small, slow, and deep gestures. Touch this point every night, not as a mechanical act, but as a living key to your own peace. Behind the ear, precisely where the skin is thin and the pulse of the world fades, lies a door. Not hinged and locked, but an energetic aperture, a silent threshold that opens only when we approach it with devotion. On this journey, we understand that the region called the mastoid process is much more than just a simple body area. It is the antenna of the soul, a neural nest where the parasympathetic system, the vagus nerve, and the human energy field converge to remind us of what is essential. Rest is not just a biological function. It is a sacred act. When we touch this place with the gentleness of a petal, as if comforting a sleeping child, we invoke ancient wisdom. It is not a trick, not a fad. It's the forgotten language of the body that responds to the invisible. It recognizes tenderness as medicine. In a world full of screens, mental noise, and endless lists, this practice becomes an act of luminous rebellion. Good sleep isn't just a necessity, it's a spiritual right. And by consciously perceiving it, we remember that there's an intact, wise, and deep part of us that isn't corrupted by modern stress. This part is waiting for you every night, just behind your ear. This simple, consciously repeated gesture can reshape your connection to peace, your body, and even your soul. For what we touch is not just skin, but emotional memory. A map of our ancestors where the mind hides its deepest secrets. There lies the symbol of what you were, what you are, and what you can become. If you truly allow yourself rest, then the next time you close your eyes, seek not only sleep, but surrender. Seek not only separation, but rediscovery. And when your fingers touch this soft spot, act as a priest lifting the veil of the sanctuary. For what lies beneath this caress is sacred. Touch with intention, breathe with presence, and let the silence whisper its wisdom. If this knowledge has awakened something within you and you feel that this ancient secret deserves to be shared with other souls thirsting for rest, then enjoy this video. Share this with anyone who needs this peace and subscribe to the channel. Each week we reveal more keys to your deepest spiritual dimension. Remember, there are doors that only open from the inside, and sometimes it all begins with a gentle touch behind the ear.